Welcome to episode 80 of the Weesports Chronicles Podcast, Masters edition of the show. We've had a bunch of shows this week leading up to the Masters, but now that we're almost halfway through the tournament, I noticed that some golfers are still having to play and finish their second round on Saturday, but we are ready to finally have some reactionary podcasts to what we're seeing live from Augusta National Golf Club. I'm your host, lukasweese of the Weesports Chronicles Podcast, and I'm pleased to be joined this evening by Gabby Herzig. Gabby is my colleague at lastwordonsports.com, where she's producing a lot of great golf work, so make sure to check her out there. She's also the captain of the women's golf team at Sonoma College, and she's kind enough to join me to chat about the first couple of rounds or so of the 2020 Masters. Gabby, welcome. Thanks so much for joining me this evening.
Thank you so much for having me, Lucas. I'm so excited to be on the pod. And yeah, like you said, I'm the captain of my team at Sonoma College in Southern California. I've been a golfer my entire life, and Masters Week is by far my favorite weekend of the year. It's a little weird that it's coming in November this year, but equally as happy about it. So yeah, I'm excited to break down these 2 rounds.
Well, I gotta ask you off the top, because I know that some of the golfers, they're gonna be playing. I mean, some of them played like 26, 27 holes. Definitely the guys tomorrow are gonna be playing that. Have you played 26, 27 holes in your college career thus far?
Yeah, I've had junior tournaments where we were rained out halfway through an 18-hole round. It was a 2-day tournament, and I had to play the second round in the same day that I had to play this second 9 holes for my first round. So I played 27 in a day because of rain. And we were supposed to play a tournament where we played 36 in one day, and it was just scheduled like that. But then the coaches kind of figured that it was a little brutal, and they kind of reworked the schedule. It's definitely tough to play that many holes in one day. And I will say that I have been to the Masters. I went when I was in 6th grade, and it's hilly. It's really hilly.
Yeah.
It's so much hillier than it looks on TV. And like even as like a young 6th grader, my legs were sore after walking that course for 4 days. So I can imagine it's pretty strenuous for these players.
Okay, so I have to follow up before we get into the actual Masters, because this is such a natural follow up. Did you try any of the Masters delicacies while you're there? I know they're famous for their sandwiches, the biscuits. Did you dive deep into that?
Yeah, I remember trying like a bunch of them, but
Okay.
I don't think I like the pimento cheese sandwich that much.
Oh.
I know a lot of people have talked about it, and I think I kind of agree it's not my favorite one. I remember really liking the egg salad sandwich, and I think that's the take I'm gonna go with.
No, you know what? It's good that for sure have a favorite. I mean, the pimento is certainly polarizing, to say the least, but always provides good discussion on golf Twitter. But let's get into Gabby. I mean, as I said off the top, some of the guys still have some holes to play, but I think what we can both agree on, what we've seen thus far, is this is a gettable Augusta National, and I know that the course has had a lot of rain recently, and it's definitely playing soft, and who knows what the Green Jackets will do over the weekend to maybe firmen up the golf course. But we're definitely seeing that these guys are shooting low scores and are making lots of birdies.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of crazy to see this low of scores so early on, and just on Thursday seeing the balls stick to the greens so firmly. I mean, a lot of shots were just staying in their pitch marks, which is pretty wild. It's also just like it's a little bit kind of rattling when you get to the green. Your ball's just sitting in a ball mark, and you have to kind of fix it and make sure it's sitting on a flat plane. But yeah, it's playing so soft. I think a lot of people are saying, oh, it's playing longer because it's soft, and maybe the guys that drive it farther have an advantage. But I think it all really comes down to spin control at the end of the day. I mean, you're gonna see balls ripping back on these greens when they're that soft. And I think kind of taking a club up and kind of learning how to control that spin over the course of these 2 rounds has been really important for the leaders. So yeah, I can't wait to see if the course continues to firm up. I know they have that sub-air system, and maybe they'll pump that up a little bit tonight. So that would be nice to see the course firm up a little bit more and kind of get its teeth back over the weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I know Justin Thomas was saying after his round that he thinks that the Masters will certainly, get tougher and the course will get a little bit more firmer, because when you look at the amount of rounds in the 60s thus far, currently there are 35 rounds in the 60s, yet 44 players haven't completed their second round. So it's definitely going to smash the records in terms of the amount of rounds in the 60s. And look, I mean, I like a challenging Augusta National, but I also like to see those birdies too. And I think once the pressure increases, especially on Sunday at the Masters, I think it'll provide a nice balance, hopefully, to have the firmness as well as the birdie opportunities that the course provides.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I think going down the stretch on Sunday, it's always really fun to see kind of the darts being thrown at the 16th pin on the back of that green, and when it's soft, I mean, it's so entertaining to kind of see them throw those darts and it just get closer and closer. But yeah, I think it's going to be awesome, and I mean, one guy I'm really looking at is Jon Rahm. I mean, he has like a 2-foot, 3-foot birdie putt that he didn't finish at the end of the round. So he's obviously going to be pushing the lead early tomorrow morning, and I think there are some other guys that are going to do the same. So the early morning golf tomorrow is going to be actually really entertaining.
Absolutely, and Jon Rahm is the golfer that we could go to first, because he's still on the course, as you said, that he's going to probably make birdie at 13, and then he has the par 5 50. So chances are, barring no catastrophic mistakes, it'd be safe to assume that Jon Rahm will be the 36-hole leader heading into the official start of Masters weekend. And look, Gabby, I mean, Jon Rahm, he competed at the Masters a couple years back in 2018 when Patrick Reed won. This year, he won at Memorial with a very crowded, star-studded leaderboard. Of course, beating DJ at the BMW Championship. So he has experience winning, and I think with his power game, he's just made for Augusta National. It really reminds me of a young Seve Ballesteros, to use the Spaniard example there, because he just has that all-around power game that you can definitely use to attack this golf course.
Yeah, I totally agree. I love the Seve comparisons with him, and I think that he's just one of those players where when he's on, he's really, really on, and even if he kind of misses a green or has an errant shot, like, he'll get up and down, and you can kind of count on him for that. So I mean, I saw on 10, he hit it way up there on the bank and made an incredible up and down that I think was a little bit underrated from that spot, and I think that he'll make a few more birdies tomorrow morning, and we'll definitely see him at the top of the leaderboard. He was actually he's one of my picks for my traditional annual Masters pool. So
okay, so I have some vested interest there. So what are your other picks for the listeners?
Well, another one that I'm very, very proud of. I just had this feeling about Abraham Ancer.
Okay.
So in 3 of my pools this week. I've loved him as a player for a while now. I don't know if you follow the Country Club Collection on Instagram, but I've been following that account for a while, and they kind of continuously document him and his incredible short game. He has these short game shots that I don't think a lot of other players have on tour. There's a video up on his Instagram from a couple days ago. He's hitting these kind of like low flighted nippers from the practice bunkers at Augusta, and the night lights are literally on. So he was practicing kind of late into the night, and I could tell like this might be his time. So Abraham Ancer was definitely my dark horse going into the weekend, and I'm very happy with how he's performed so far.
Well, it's truly amazing. I mean, for the tournament, he's hit 30 of 36 greens in regulation, 22 of 28 fairways hit, and then he's also great from the sand. The scrambling stats too really point to him. I remember at the RBC Heritage this year. I mean, he finished runner up, but he led in driving accuracy and greens in regulation. So it's quite amazing to see him blossom, and this is his first Masters, and already showing why he's one of the real talented younger players on the PGA Tour.
Yeah, exactly. I wrote about him in my article this week about the rookies to watch, and at the RBC, those are some of the smallest greens on the PGA Tour at Hilton Head. So it really showed. Like he it's just straight target practice for him with his irons. Like he's so precise with his irons, and I think that as we've seen, the hitting greens is a huge stat to look for at the Masters specifically, and also just hitting greens in the right spots. You got to know where to hit them. Like especially with each pin, there's always a different kind of like pure spot to hit where you're going to have a good look at birdie. So I think he's doing an amazing job at that. And even when he's not in a good spot off the tee, like we can see him recover. I saw him hit an incredible shot on 7 today from the pine straw. It just rolled up there so nicely. So yeah, I think he's definitely someone to watch this weekend.
Another one too, who's currently at 9 under par with Abraham Answer, is of course Justin Thomas. He's the 2017 PGA Championship winner, as well as Dustin Johnson, who of course won the 2016 U.S. Open and was the runner-up at the Masters in 2019. Let's start with Justin Thomas, Gabby, because Justin's been, had a rocky start this morning, double bogey on 1, but then was able to rally and put together quite a nice 3 under round 69. Getting 3 birdies on the front, 2, 8, and 9, and then 4 birdies to end the round on holes 15 through 18. And I think what makes Justin Thomas so special is the iron game, and everyone knows when he first got on the tour, he was a really good iron player, but now he's the best iron player. And we've talked about it already a bit here, about how Augusta, you really need to hit your iron shots really well. It's a second shot golf course. If Justin can really continue that, as well as makes, a few more putts, he's definitely going to be in the mix come Sunday.
Yeah, I totally agree. It was awesome to see him make those, I think, 3 birdies in a row kind of early today to bounce back. And yeah, his iron game's obviously impeccable. He also has the advantage of knowing the course a little bit better than some of the other guys on the top of the leaderboard right now. He's played 6 Masters. I think when he's similar to Jon Rahm. I think when he gets fired up, he really gets fired up. He has an incredible mental game. He seems so steady out there. Even though he can be a little reactionary after his shots, maybe like Rory can, I think that he totally has the mindset to win this weekend. And I would definitely not be surprised if we saw Justin Thomas in the green jacket on Sunday.
Well, to me, what surprised me, because I was tuning in and Justin Thomas was getting interviewed by ESPN's Scott Van Pelt in Butler Cabin, and they made the point that JT had never been in Butler Cabin before. Now that obviously makes sense because he hadn't won a Masters yet. But when you look at his performances, I mean, his first Masters, he was plus 10. Scored a par, but every single year he's improved. So I think he's definitely trending in the right direction, and he's someone, look, he is a staple winner on the PGA Tour. Like, if you're looking at a guy that you're going to say, okay, I'm going to put money on this guy to win a PGA Tour event, it's Justin Thomas. I mean, he's so consistent, but when you look at his major championship results after winning at Quail Hollow, definitely, disappointing to his standards. So I think, the fact that he's in the mix, I think, obviously is good for the Masters, good for golf, but it'll be very interesting to see if he could actually close the deal, because that's something that he hasn't been able to do in the last few majors.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think we hear a lot of players talk about how hard it is to get that second major after you win the first one. I think that probably is a little bit of a hurdle for him, like it is for everyone else. And another thing I've been thinking about is, he's gotten really close with Tiger over the past couple of years. And like I said before, you really have to know Augusta. And I'm sure that Tiger, well, maybe not, because he keeps his kind of cards close to his chest, but maybe he's learned a thing or two. And I think as JT's gotten older, he's definitely become like a wiser and more mature player, while still having that kind of fiery energy and not laying up, going for every tucked pin. So, yeah, I personally believe in a JT win. I know it could definitely be a hurdle for him and an obstacle, especially with how stacked the leaderboard is, but I'm pulling for him for sure.
So is JT and Tiger like the top bromance right now in golf, Gabby? I need your thoughts. The listeners need your thoughts.
I think they're definitely up there.
Okay.
Sure. Another one that comes to mind is not necessarily 2 PGA Tour players, but Matthew Wolff and his coach George Genghis.
Yes.
I don't know if you follow the whole social media behind George Genghis, but I'm disappointed to see that Matt Wolff isn't going to make the cut.
Yeah.
I really was pulling for him this week. He's been someone I've been following since his freshman year at Oklahoma State. I'm absolutely obsessed with how weird his swing is and how I'm always confused about how it works and how it produces such great results. But yeah, I was really looking forward to seeing him in contention. I think he just had a bad day today, and maybe Augusta intimidated him a little bit, which surprised me because I think he has such kind of a fiery spirit and a lot of confidence. Such a young player. So that was definitely one player that I was a little disappointed in their performance this weekend.
Speaking of golfers trying to get their second majors, that could also be said about Dustin Johnson, who put together a solid 65-70 over the course of his first 2 days. And I say this all the time, Gabby. I mean, when I watch Dustin Johnson play golf, it just seems so simple to him, and he has that natural power and that rotating swing that can really generate a lot of power, but he's really improved, I think, on, the irons, and then the short game putting is where I think he's definitely improved on. How do you rate his chances going into the weekend? Because let's be honest, at major championships, this has been a big question mark for him throughout his whole career. Can he close the deal?
Yeah, I was honestly really surprised to see him kind of go off this morning and get to, I think, 10 under at one point. That was definitely surprising to me, especially because he just had COVID and he's coming back. And it sounds like he bounced back stronger than ever. Obviously, we know DJ can hit the ball far. He can hit it a long way. He's strong. He has that very strong left wrist at the top of his swing, which I think a lot of people envy. But I also think his wedge game is pretty underrated. He really knows how to control his wedges from 60, 70, 80, 90 yards, those awkward distances, which I think are going to be so important this weekend, especially with the spin control aspect that I mentioned earlier. I think DJ has really good control over his wedge spin. I think he has a good chance. The mental side is definitely going to be a challenge for DJ. I think we've seen him have some blow-ups in majors before in the U.S. Open, so that could be a problem. But with how he played today, I mean, I'm definitely confident in DJ.
Yeah, and I think for him, I know, I say this all the time, but the more you put yourself into those winning positions, the greater chance you are to succeed and actually win. And I know that DJ was right there, had the 54-hole lead at the 2020 PGA Championship, and didn't have his best final round performance. But you look what he did at the Northern Trust, just ripping that course to shreds and really shooting low, and then the Tour Championship, winning Player of the Year in 2020. I mean, I think this has been, other than Bryson DeChambeau, which we'll talk about in a little bit, DJ has really shown that he's had a really fantastic year. He's playing great golf, and I think it would be a sort of a great story. He's out of the game with COVID for a bit, and then bounces back to then join the illustrious group of Masters champions.
Yeah, I totally agree. I also, just to mention, I loved his comment during the press conferences when I think he was asked which is his favorite one. Like you asked me earlier, and he said all of them.
Nice.
That's a classic DJ statement.
Yeah, DJ.
So I always love him.
No, absolutely, and he's Team RBC too. So up here in Canada, we're very supportive of DJ. Also a former RBC Canadian Open champ. So we know quite well, DJ's great answers. Obviously, Gabby, Tiger Woods is still such a big talking point at the Masters, but look, not many people would have predicted that he'd be in contention at this point. Heading into the weekend, likely to make the cut barring a catastrophic, set of circumstances. So, what have you been most impressed with Tiger this week? Because to me, he just, he hasn't looked great really all year, but the way he seems to know and play Augusta National is truly a work of art. Because again, it just shows you that the 5-time Masters champion just, he goes into a different gear when he gets to Augusta.
Yeah, kind of like exactly what you said. I feel like it's almost like watching an artist kind of do his work. He obviously feels at home at Augusta. He looked remarkably relaxed this week. I'm seeing a lot of smiles on his face, a lot of laughs with his caddy, which is kind of unusual. You usually see kind of the stone cold Tiger at the Masters, but he's definitely seems to be enjoying himself. I think that's because he's confident in his driver, he's confident in his irons, he's hitting a lot of fairways, a lot of greens. I think the one thing that we need to watch for Tiger is the putts. It seemed like he was overreading a lot of putts. That's what I noticed. I think he mentioned it in his post-round interview. Definitely, if some putts drop, he could totally be in contention on Sunday. Obviously, the golf world would love to see it. I would love to see it. I mean, that would be just epic if he was in contention on Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we all remember last year and just how, iconic a moment that was, and how, Tiger just doesn't move the needle. He is the needle when it comes to golf popularity. And I mean, you're right. I mean, Tiger's been, I think, very, very happy, very, at times emotional, like, and recognizing the achievement that he did last year. But I just think, again, like, you can't beat the knowledge that he knows. I think today, he nearly chips in on the par 5 second hole for eagle from the bunker. To me, the one real bad hole was that third hole. I mean, 3 putting from like 10 feet, what was certainly un-Tiger-esque. But when you look at what he has tomorrow, he's got, 2 tough holes to start, 11 and 12. But then he's got the 2 par 5s, 13 and 15. And chances are in the morning it'll be softer conditions. So therefore more gettable conditions. I think that if Tiger's thinking of, okay, making a move on moving day, the 3rd round, I think he's got to get to 6 under. I do think he needs 2 or 3 more birdies, put some pressure, depending if the lead gets to, let's say, 9 or, 10, 11. He needs to sort of stay within that striking distance to make a big move on Saturday during the 3rd round.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think it will definitely be interesting to see how he plays kind of that 3rd round. I always worry about his back when there's a lot of golf to play. I mean, hopefully he can stay loose throughout the day. He obviously is an impeccable athlete. I think he'll be fine, but, that's definitely a concern in the back of my head. In the morning, he has a par 5, he has 15. I mean, I think he can get to 6 under easily. I just worry about the 3rd round. Although I am obviously pulling for him, would love to see him in contention on Sunday. I think it all comes down to the putter. So we'll just have to see if those putts drop, and if he kind of avoids those 3 putts that we saw today. I mean, that was pretty painful to watch. So yeah, it's all about speed. It's all about putting.
Right now, the projected cut is even par, and the 2020 U.S. Open champion Bryson DeChambeau is currently at +1. He's +3 for the day in the 2nd round. He's through 12 holes, and again, like the first day, a real adventure, and this time on the par 4 3rd hole, a hole that people were saying this week, look, he's going to drive this green, it's going to be a guaranteed birdie. I think he got a little bit unlucky there, Gabby, because I think if there were patrons in attendance, they probably would have found that ball. But in addition to that, though, do you think that perhaps the hype around Bryson, while it's valid, it was a little bit overhyped heading into this week?
Yeah, I was talking to a few people before the week started, and I was kind of under the impression that he was trying to outsmart Augusta a little bit, and to me that just seems a little sacrilegious and quite frankly impossible. I mean, it's Augusta for a reason. I don't think there are shortcuts at this golf course. I think Webb Simpson said earlier this week that you kind of have to let the course humble you. You have to take a step back and kind of just put it in the middle of the green sometimes, or kind of hit the safer shot, and Bryson just isn't willing to do that at this point. And I think the lost ball on 3 was definitely unlucky. I'm sure they would have found it if patrons were there. And also, I mean, Bryson's hitting his drives remarkably high, and that definitely played a factor in how plugged this ball got, that they couldn't even see it or find it. I think they also were just looking in the wrong spot, which definitely is to blame to the lack of people out there. I mean, if more eyes were watching, they probably would have pointed them in the right direction. Obviously, the new 3-minute rule hurt him as well. I think I read somewhere that someone found the ball like 2 minutes after they stopped looking and drove him back to the tee. So, I mean, my heart hurts for him. That would definitely suck for me if that happened to me in a tournament. Because obviously when we were playing Division III golf, no one's watching our golf balls. We're always worried about where our golf balls are going. So it kind of felt like that, honestly, which is crazy because it's the Masters. So it reminded me of when, I forget who it was, lost their ball in the rough at the U.S. Open. But that's a little more understandable. It's the U.S. Open. The rough is supposed to be that thick. I mean, I never expected a ball to be lost in the rough at the Masters. And for it to happen to Bryson, I mean, it's definitely, I think, a little bit of karma for how confident he was going into this week. But, you know, it definitely looked like he was having a little bit of a meltdown out there. I mean, he looked like he was just so rattled. And I would have been too if that happened to me. But, you know, I think him playing the last couple holes tomorrow morning is a blessing in disguise for him. He gets to kind of go home, like rework what's going on in his brain, kind of redo those calculations that he's always doing. So I think we'll see him bounce back tomorrow morning, and I know it will be entertaining for everyone to see him in the mix on Saturday and Sunday, and I hope he doesn't miss the cut, but you know, he's definitely close, so he's got to make up a couple shots.
Yeah, I mean, and luckily he has the 2 par 5s, which would, you know, likely put him over the edge to just barely make the cut. But look, I mean, I think this conversation around distance isn't going away. I think distance is here to stay, and if you have an advantage like Bryson DeChambeau has to hit the ball as long as he has and to really exploit that with, you know, the club head speed and then really just, you know, letting the ball fly, you have a significant advantage compared to someone who doesn't hit it as far. But I think what Augusta's showing is that you can have a mix of the lawn hitters, the shorter hitters, contend, and be right in the mix, because I think, as we've said earlier, Augusta comes down to the short game, it comes down to the putting, who's going to win the tournament, and I think it gets a little bit overlooked, but what Bryson did at the U.S. Open, his short game and putting were really sensational that week, in addition to the lawn hitting. So I think Bryson's going to be Bryson, and I think, honestly, it's good for golf that we have personalities like him to be right there in the mix, because he's just great for us content creators trying to create that sizzling social media content.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like you said about the kind of mix on the leaderboard, I mean, Bernard Langer is up there again. I mean, like right next to kind of Brooks and all these guys who are pumping iron every morning. So that's definitely a cool thing to see. It kind of shows how this golf course can favor a variety of different styles of play. I mean, I think that for Bryson, obviously distance is going to help him, but it won't help him if he can't hit greens. So I think that's the problem he's having right now. You can hit it however long you want, but if you aren't getting yourself in good position to make birdie, I mean, what's it going to do, you know? So that's what I'm worried about for him. I hope he kind of gets it together. But yeah, he's obviously an entertaining character. He's so fun to watch. So I hope he pulls it together tomorrow.
Obviously, as we head into the weekend, Gabby, what's going to make this so exciting is just how bunched up the leaderboard is right now. And we've selected a few guys to start talking about, but there's just so many more. When you think of, you know, Cameron Smith, who's tied for the lead also at 9 under, Hideki Matsuyama, Patrick Cantley at 8 under. I mean, Jon Rahm, as we mentioned, Justin Rose, Brooks Koepka, 4-time major winner, only 4 back of the lead. Rory McIlroy shot 6 under in his second round just to get in the mix for the weekend.
Yeah.
What are 1 or 2 guys that you're looking for to say, watch out for these guys, because they're not out of it just yet, and they could contend come Sunday afternoon?
Yeah, I think someone that I'm looking at is Patrick Cantley, definitely. I mean, he's another one of those guys whose irons are so precise, and he has such a strong mental game. Like, you aren't reading a single emotion from him out there. He is stone cold. So I think that he could definitely be someone who sneaks up. I mean, I think he's at 8 under right now, so maybe not even sneaks up. He's already up there. Yeah, he's definitely someone I'm looking at. I think he's due for a major, 100%. I would love to see him win. He's also just such a nice guy. I mean, I definitely have been rooting for him for the past couple years. He's an amazing ball striker. I definitely admire his game. So yeah, that's one. And then also Phil.
Yeah.
Talking about how his driver is on fire, and I don't remember the exact words they used, but it was something to that extent. And you know, he obviously knows the golf course well, 3-time Masters champion. I think he could sneak up too. I mean, with his short game, if he gets in a bad position, we know he can make up from that with his kind of signature flop shots and kind of recoveries from all over the course. So I think he's definitely another one to watch too.
I think the exact quote you're looking for is that he was driving it like a stallion. So that is all you need to know about where Phil Mickelson's head and game is at. Of course, Phil, winning a couple events on the Champions Tour, coming into the Masters week. But for me, Gabby, I'm looking at Hideki Matsuyama. He's someone that has major experience. Hasn't won yet, but has been in the mix. You know, when you look at 76% fairways hit, 70% greens in regulation through 2 rounds. So I'm looking at him, and again, he hasn't finished yet his second round, so we'll see if he can make up a couple shots or not. But I'm still a Brooks Koepka guy. For me, this is someone that you have to be. I mean, the guy has been so good at majors the last 4 years, and it's amazing that even like at the PGA, when clearly he wasn't 100% healthy, he still contended. Now he's a lot better, as he said in his pre-tournament press conference. So to me, he's in that perfect spot right now where if he can make a couple putts, he's right in the mix. And look, when the pressure ramps up, he's a guy that knows how to conquer it for sure.
Yeah, he for sure thrives under pressure. So I think he'll amp it up tomorrow. I saw him miss a couple 10, 12 footers, and we all know he can make those. So I think he's for sure someone to watch. You can never bet against Brooks Koepka in a major. I just don't believe in it.
Yeah.
So I kind of forgot about him, to be honest.
Yeah.
Thanks for reminding me.
No, I mean, and also, I mean, shout out to, Brooks and his girlfriend Jenna Sims' Instagram lives, like, quality social media content.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, that Instagram live honestly answered so many questions about Brooks for me. And she also showed him practicing, and I think he was like 7 or 8 under through like 8 or 9 holes. And that alone kind of like put him on my radar for the Masters. But with such a stacked leaderboard, it's so easy for some of these guys to kind of slip through the cracks and like who you're pulling for. So yeah.
Well, it's going to be a great weekend. Before I let you go, Gabby, though, I got one question for you, and I'm asking this of all my guests this week. What is your ideal champions dinner? If you had the chance to, if you won the Masters one day and had the chance to make your own champions dinner, what would be on the menu and why?
That's such a good question. I should have prepared for this. I'm a huge Italian food person.
Okay.
So the main would have to be some assortment of pastas. And then appetizer, I have no idea. I'd have to think about that. Maybe like some sort of like wing or something. Nice. I don't know, maybe barbecue. And then for dessert, I'd for sure do milkshakes, kind of similar to what we saw with some of the other Masters Champions dinners. Yeah, that's a great question. I need to think about that one more before I give you a solid answer.
No, I mean that's totally fine. And I mean, it's gonna be, I think we could both agree, even though this is a Masters that's in November, it's going to produce a stellar champion, and we're still going to have those Sunday fields like we always have in April. So Gabby Herzig, she's a colleague of mine at lastwordonsports.com. Make sure to check out her stuff there on golf. She's also the captain of the women's golf team at Sonoma College. Gabby, it was such a pleasure to have you on to chat about the Masters. Enjoy Masters weekend, and we'll have you back again soon to chat golf on the Weesports Chronicles podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.